This is Doug Scheiding, the Rogue Cookers, Texas embedded correspondent. You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show.
Happy to have you aboard here for the really big barbecue show.
Boing. We cook because we have to, and we grill because we want to.
Hit me.
Fine, how's it going?
You have a great show. I'm a big fan.
Boing.
So what seems to be the problem here? This man looks like he's dead and he's in the crackle. Charbono! It's all about the charbono, dude!
Succulent fish. What?
We ate sushi or wieners.
Well, listen, Lavernius, shut your face.
I'm shaking like a dog shit peach seed.
We have top men working on it right now. Top men.
And just like that, we are into the second hour. It's the Barbecue Central Show, where we talk about only the most important things in the barbecue and grilling industry. If you missed the first hour, don't worry. We are recording. The first hour will be available in audio podcast tomorrow early morning. The second hour of today's show tonight will be on Thursday early morning, and we'll talk about Friday here in just 1 second. Still to come on the show this evening, Michael Symon in about 13 minutes from now. And then at some point after that, we will mix in a Doug Trattner, food writer from Cleveland Scene, pal o' mine, accomplished outdoor cook himself, live firist. I gave him a kettle grill that he's using quite regularly and seems to be very fond of. So looking forward to catching up with those folks. Don't forget, the Barbecue Central Show is coming to you live and direct from
Palm City, USA, Cleveland.
We say good evening to those of you watching tonight through one of our video streaming platforms. You can go to facebook.com/BBQ Central Show, or you can watch on YouTube, and that can be found at youtube.com/@BBQ Central Show. Unlike the audio podcast, which is parsed out Wednesdays and Thursdays, the minute this show ends here this evening, those video shows on those platforms will auto-archive, and you can go back and watch and listen until your heart's content almost immediately, so know that as well. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests. It was 50-50 not too long ago. It has bounced in another direction at this point. We're asking everybody if you think Brad Leininger of Getting Basted will get into the Barbecue Hall of Fame here in 2025. And currently 56% of you are saying no. You do not believe that he will be in the Barbecue Hall of Fame this year. I'm siding with you no's. I think he should be. When you look at his full complement of experience, even outside of the competition stuff, which on the heels alone should probably get him into the Hall of Fame. And again, it took Darren Worth 3 times on the list of finalists to actually get in, which I believe was last year. So Brad might have a few years left, assuming if he doesn't get in this year, he would have to be re-nominated for the list of final 10. We'll get into that here in a second. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less this coming Friday. I got to check this. Stand by. Okay, to talk. Oh, what? Yes. Okay. Coming up on the best moments of the Barbecue Central Show in 10 minutes or less, coming Friday, episode 383, taking you back to May 12th, 2015, and this week, featuring Pitmaster of Big Papa Smokers, Sterling Ball. Within the minutes of this segment, Sterling really goes all in on his chicken process at the time back in 2015, talks about prep time, talks about finishing temperatures and potential danger temperatures as far as what the judges might think of texture at certain temperatures. Not danger like cooking chicken to 130 and turning it in, but not cooking it to at least a benchmark temperature where texture comes into play. He also was very open about how the whole competition scene was changing at that time back in 2015. Very interesting to hear a top competition talk about things he's working on both while in competition and also just becoming a better cook from a high-level standpoint as a team. So if you don't know Sterling, hearing him talk in this segment certainly will make you appreciate what he's been able to accomplish in the barbecue competition scene amongst other industries. So be sure to check that show out Friday. You can subscribe to the show by visiting thebbqcentralshow.com/subscribe, where you can also get replays of the Barbecue Central Show Wednesdays and Thursdays. And don't forget, if you would like to hear a past guest or segment again that you feel has been lost in the archives, which is now extensive, you can email John, Jon, at thebbqcentralshow.com. That's Jon, John, at thebbqcentralshow.com. Let him know what you would like to hear, and he will do his best to meet your expectation. By the way, if we're staying on with this whole Sterling Ball topic just for a moment, while I don't know too much, I do know this. Sterling Ball did not...
Andrew, you are not the father.
He did not make it onto the finals list of names for the 2025 Barbecue Hall of Fame, which, in a word, is a travesty. A man who has been highly accomplished as far as barbecue competition cooking is concerned, winning some of the most major barbecue events that you can do. He has been a California Barbecue Association Team of the Year multiple times over. He then branched out of just being a competition cook and said, you know what, I think I could put on some really kick-ass barbecue competitions. And he did in two different ways. One being the guinea pig, which is was a cost-controlled competition, making it more approachable and more ability to enter into that sport. Guinea pig was. And then, of course, he had the King of the Smoker, which everybody raved about. That went on for 10 years. Everybody looking for the invite. That was invite only. A lot of people pissed when they weren't invited for that year, or wondering why so-and-so made it in that year, but not me, because look how well I'm doing this year. But it was Sterling's rules, and those were ones to play by. But like everything in the competition world, you have great things, you are living in the moment, and what we have most come to be known for barbecue competition, folks, is shitting on everything. It's not good enough. It's not fast enough. The judges suck. The meat sucks. Let's shit on everything. And you did with King of the Smoker, and then, like all good things, it went away. And then the first year it went away. Oh, I really miss that King of the Smoker. Oh, of course you do, dumbass. Couldn't appreciate while it was happening. You're too busy taking a dump all over it, and away it goes. So, not only competition cook putting on two different styles of competitions, always available for lending his expertise at whatever barbecue competition and or a promotion of events is concerned. Huge philanthropist as it comes to juvenile diabetes research. Of course, everybody knows, if you know anything about him, about his son Casey and how Sterling donated his kidney to Casey at birth and everything that he had been contending with here over his lifetime, and the amount of money and endowments that he has been able to raise and give back to hospitals that specialize in juvenile diabetes research and treatment. And then, of course, there's the whole business side of barbecue with the website and the retail and the rubs and the sauce. If this doesn't qualify you for a Hall of Fame, quite frankly, I don't know what does. And I know John Solberg feels the same way. He made a huge pitch and nomination for him this year. I was doing the same. I've been doing the same for the last 4 or 5 years. But the names committee continues to rebuff a Sterling Ball and will continue to try and rebuff the rebuff. And if I might mention the Hall of Fame just for one more minute, you might have noticed that in 2025, there was no special show announcing the 10 finalists for the Hall of Fame this year. Subsequently, there will be no announcement on this show. Where did we go wrong? Where did we break up? It's news to me because all of a sudden I got a bunch of emails going, well, here's the list of the 10 finalists. Why was there no special show midweek? And does that mean we're not got? I don't know what happened. But like all good things, like all good relationships that I have, I can probably guarantee this. I've offended somebody and they've decided they've had enough of me. And we had a great run with the Barbecue Hall of Fame over there at the American Royal. And I appreciate the, 6 or 7 years that we did those special shows. But it seems, at least for this year, we've taken a hiatus. Maybe we'll get back together. Maybe we'll fall in love. Maybe we won't. Usually we don't. But I don't believe I did anything to offend them. And if I did, I apologize. It's always my fault. But don't be looking for that. Just be on the lookout for when that class is announced. Hey, Michael Symon is in the green room. We'll get to him here in just one moment. Before we do that, we'll talk to you about what? The barbecue diet program. Yes! Because I have to ask you, are you tired of diets that make you choose between good food and real results? Well, you don't have to anymore. My pal David McDowell has cracked the code. His personalized fat loss coaching for barbecue lovers like you and me. Let you eat the foods you love. Ribs, brisket, wings, all that stuff. Still, you can lose weight, get lean, and feel amazing, like me. This isn't some fad. It's a proven system that includes barbecue-friendly meal plans, tailored health strategies, weekly check-ins, so you're never guessing, never alone, never forced to give up what you love. And if you want to be part of something bigger, to surround yourself with like-minded barbecue lovers who are dropping weight, getting lean, getting strong, and staying motivated, then online, the Barbecue Diet Group is where you need to be. Here's the deal. You can keep struggling on your own, or you can plug into a system that works. Join now, get exclusive access to expert coaching, real-world strategies, and a support crew that won't let you fail. Go to school.com/BBQ. That's SKOOL. School.com/BBQ right now and take the first step, because you can have barbecue and your dream bod, but you have to take action. We all know that. I'm just getting ready to end week 9. Bro, you should see me. I'm shredded. I am not taking my shirt off. Don't even ask me. Just take my word. All right, we're back with Michael Symon right after this. Stick around. Be right back.
You're listening to the Barbecue Central Show. Howard Stern, Jim Rome, Dan Patrick, and Greg Rempe. The Mountain Rushmore of talk show entertainment. Now, let's get back to the Barbecue Central Show.
All right, welcome back. This portion of the show being brought to you by McAuliffe Cigars. That's right. Step into the world of McAuliffe Cigars, where each blend is a chapter in a grand tale of craftsmanship and passion. The color series is my favorite currently. Of course, we know about McAuliffe Black and Blue, Red, and now the new McAuliffe Purple was just released a couple weeks ago. You can go to the website, McAuliffeCigars.com. That's MICALLEF cigars.com. Find the locator and a retailer nearest you. Leading off the second hour tonight is a Cleveland, Ohio icon, both in business and in the food world. You might know him as an Iron Chef. You might know him as a multiple-time TV show host, both on network television with a show called The Chew, and also on a number of programs inside the Food Network landscape. Others of you might know him from his best-selling cookbooks, one of which we will talk about here this evening. He's currently co-hosting 24 in 24, Last Chef Standing, on the aforementioned Food Network. I am happy to welcome back fellow Clevelander Michael Symon to the show. Michael, appreciate you making time here this evening and a third-time visit, which I am certainly appreciative of. We have a YouTube poll question of the week that we're asking everybody, including all guests on the show, which is simply this. Do you think that Brad Leiniger of Getting Basted will make it into the Barbecue Hall of Fame here in 2025?
God, I hope so.
Yes? All right. We'll take yes. We'll take yes.
Yeah, I mean, he's won a lot. I mean, he also, I feel changed the way that people cook whole hogs in competition,
To say the least. Hot and fast whole hog doesn't usually meld together with words.
Yeah, I mean, he's about as good as it gets as far as the barbecue comp world goes. I mean, he's a gamer.
You were in Memphis in May, and you saw that ridiculous gateway drum smoker that needed a small baby crane to lift the lid. What did you think of that setup?
Yeah, I mean, at first I thought it was a hot tub. I was getting all excited. I was getting ready to, pop a little bit of champagne and jump in. Then I saw the hog in there. I didn't know what the hell was going on.
Let's circle back to the TV show just for a second. 24 now in its second season. Would a younger Lolita-owning Michael Symon have done something like this had the opportunity been available to you?
Oh, I'm sure I would have. I mean, the chef world, the barbecue world, both of those worlds. I mean, I've been up 24 straight hours many a times in my life in the restaurants, opening restaurants. So yeah, certainly. And it's obviously competition doesn't scare me after doing Iron Chef for 12 seasons, 12 years. So yeah, I definitely would have jumped into that world.
Could present day Michael
But
Symon
it is fun
win?
hosting it.
Yeah, I bet. But could you jump in and win this contest, do you think? Like, competitor in you is probably always like, yes, but realistically?
Yeah, I think I could. I mean, with a lot of competitions like this, I mean, the beautiful thing about 24 and 24s is I tell people all the time, it is people always say, I want to see what a chef's life is like. That show is what a chef's life is like. You open a restaurant, you're up for 24 straight hours, you're getting all this cooking done. Things are changing quickly and drastically, and you're grinding through it. And then all of a sudden you're open to the public and you have to put up great food. And then especially nowadays with, it used to be you didn't get reviewed for 2 months, but now with social and everything, you're basically the day you open, you're getting reviewed and critiqued. So, for people at home that want to see what it's like being a chef, watch 24 and 24. That's what it's like being a chef.
Is Jonathan Sawyer on this season?
Jonathan Sawyer is on this season. And he's still alive. We're down to the final 10 chefs now, and he's still cooking. So the lineup this year was crazy. I think between the 24 chefs, there were over 20 James Beard Awards won, like a total of like 20 Michelin stars. I mean, it's a heavy hitter season.
You're a James Beard Award winner yourself. Would you rather have a Michelin star, or would you rather have a James Beard Award?
Well, I mean, Michelin stars are a little bit tricky because you have to be in a city that gives them out. The cities that I've owned restaurants in did not have a Michelin program. So, I mean, from that sense, I'll take the Beard Award. But, I certainly think that we've opened Michelin star caliber restaurants, just not in cities that are judging Michelin stars.
24 and 24, is that a idea that's pitched to you, or do you have this brainchild?
It was a combination. Yeah, it was a combination. Brian Lando, it's done by Lando Productions. Him and I have worked together, on and off for over 20 years now. He was a Food Network executive back in the day, then started his own production company. So, we talked about the show 5 years ago, and then 4 or 5 years ago, and then like where it needs to be, what some of the challenges should be, what are things that happen to chefs in a daily, weekly, nightly situation that are incredibly challenging. Like on last week's show, we shut the gas off on them, mid cook. And a lot of people at home are like, oh my God, that's ridiculous. That's not fair. I'm like, I 5 different occasions at Lola, like something happened on the street where the gas went out, the electric went out, the power went out, the hoods went down. And every chef, when you talk to them afterwards, you're like, oh yeah, that's happened to us before. So it's like, we're just putting them in real life situations, and seeing how they respond. The beautiful thing about a 24 straight hour cook like that is in television, especially for people that have been on like it's their first couple times doing television. They want America to perceive them a certain way. So their answers, they really think about their answers instead of, I mean, I think they're mostly giving an honest answer, but they're a little bit guarded. 15 hours into cooking and sleep deprived, it all just goes away. They just say whatever pops into their head just comes out of their mouth. So you get a really true look into what chefs are thinking and how they're feeling and what's running through their dome.
I remember asking you why Barbecue USA was going away, and you gave me a very thoughtful answer. And you also said that competition-style shows, I mean, I'm not going to say that was a competition-style show necessarily. You're showing competitions, but 24 and 24 is a real food competition-based show. And these things continue
100%.
to dominate what people want to watch on these networks, right?
Yeah, I mean, TV is pretty easy in the sense of like people go, like a lot of times people say to me, I mean, I still have done a cooking show on the Food Network for years, but like people say, why aren't there more cooking shows? We want more cooking shows. Why aren't there more cooking shows? And it's, the ratings for comp shows are higher than the ratings for cooking shows. It's like, it's literally that easy. And like Barbecue USA, when we talked about it last time, like when we initially came up with that show, it was supposed to be like a 1 year special, and then it did well. So we were able to get 2 years out of it. But the challenge is there, as you and I have talked about, is, it's hard to do 24, 36, 48 episodes of something when, for the most part, everybody's cooking the same every week in a very similar style, like the barbecue comp circuit. Once someone wins, shortly after that, everybody knows what they did to win or have a good idea.
Yeah.
And they start kind of mimicking that style, and, like the Casey barbecue. So I'm not against it, but like, I feel until, I mean, not only for TV, but just for barbecue in general, I would love to see competitions that are, people aren't locked into a style, like they could just cook their style and they're not going to get deducted points because someone said the sauce should be this, or this should be the tenderness, or don't make it too spicy, or, whatever. We could go down the list. But that's when it would really get interesting to me. Like, that like, it was always funny to me, like you're in Texas doing a barbecue comp, and you have these great Texas pitmasters that make incredible brisket, but they know that the judges, the people, aren't trained to really eat a Texas style brisket, so to say. So you get more of something closer to a pot roast, which is delicious. It was delicious, but it was like, to think that like La Barbecue or Franklin could go into a barbecue competition in Texas and their brisket wouldn't even place because of the rules, or stylistically speaking, of how brisket's supposed to be in comp, is insanity. I mean, like, it's crazy to me. Give me a better brisket than La Barbecue and I'll chew off my toe. Like, it just doesn't happen.
Any new TV shows coming up that we should be on the lookout for?
Right now the focus is mostly 24 and 24.
Yep.
We're always working on new things. I'm always working on doing another live fire show, so hopefully that'll happen sooner than later. I mean, the great news is last year 24 and 24 was the highest rated freshman show on Food Network in a decade.
Wow.
This year we're up 20, I think almost 20%, 25% to last year.
Wow.
In a world where cable TV is down 30%, we're up 25%. So the show has been incredibly, incredibly well received. So we'll continue to focus on that. But I still want to do another live fire show. I think they're incredibly entertaining and they make the viewer at home think. And I think that viewers are more and more interested in live fire cooking or barbecue, than they were 2 years, 5 years,
Yep.
10 years, 15 years ago.
All right, so we'll wrap the TV, and now we're going to talk about the book stuff, Symon's Dinners, Cooking Out, and we're going to bring our pal, Doug Trattner, into the mix as well. So Michael Symon, that's Doug Trattner right there, and Doug Trattner, this is Michael Symon right over there. I don't know if you guys know each other or not.
I can't believe he's awake. I can't believe Trattner's awake right now. Like, what did you take an afternoon nap, buddy?
What time do they broadcast the NBA Finals out west? Do you know what happened yet?
I watched them at the same time. You know, it's one great thing about being from Cleveland is we break records that no one is capable of breaking.
Right.
I found out today that we're the first number 1 seed in the history of the NBA to lose all 3 of our home games.
Good.
So we just keep on keeping on.
Yeah, it's a tough life. It's a tough life. All right.
Trattner, would you be more physical in the paint? Like if the Cavs signed you per se to like maybe for in place of Allen or somebody, like could you be an inside force in the paint? I feel you could be. You're pretty.
Oh
scrappy.
yeah, I mean I'd live down there. You know, I was just like
Doug, the enforcer Trattner, picking up technical fouls, and he's like the Rick Mahorn of Cleveland Heights.
Yeah, he could be our Mahorn. I mean, Greg, you're all ripped up now. You could get down there too. I mean, good things. I think good things could happen.
If it weren't for all the running, I'm in.
Well, that's going to be trouble, Doug.
I mean, they do say you can't teach tall.
Yeah, that's going to be trouble.
Yeah, that's true. Oh, do I know it?
So we have a new book. It's Symon's Dinners, Cooking Out. And so for those of just joining in, here we go. We got Michael Symon right here, and we got Doug Trattner below us. So compared to some of the other live fire-based books that you two have written, and I guess, Doug, we'll start with you since you're new into the mix here. How does this one stand apart in your view?
Oh, well, I mean, it's 100% all live fire, cooked over, a regular everyday kettle grill that you'll have in your backyard that 80% of Americans have in their backyard, standard charcoal, nothing fancy. This is a book for everybody. I'm Playing with Fire, which is, one of my favorite books. It's highly technical. I mean, you've been talking about it all show. That's smoking. That's real barbecue. That's low and slow. This is accessible, approachable, and fun. And it, like I said, it's the regular equipment that we all have.
All right, Michael, how do you think this book lays out compared to some of the other ones?
Well, I think one, we base it off the show that Liz and I have been doing for 7 seasons, Symon's Dinners, Cooking Out. And again, it does have a more of an approachability factor. We have some, there is some low and slow things that we've showed people how to set up on a potbelly grill. But there's also some super fast dishes that you could make too, and desserts. I mean, like Liz made a chocolate bundt cake, in a Weber, and it was delicious. I mean, it was incredible. So it's it kind of takes you from through the whole alphabet, so to speak, of things that you could do on a grill, and the message that we're really working on teaching people, and that I've always kind of tried to preach is like anything that you could do inside, you could do outside. Anything that you could do outside, you could do inside. When you do it outside, you get the benefit of that kiss of smoke, that there's really no other flavor quite like that. And I tell people this all the time, and sometimes they look at me crazy, but I'm like, look, when the lid is up on your grill, it's a stovetop. The minute you close the lid, it's an oven. Like, if you just think of it like that, life gets really easy, really fast, and we always set up our grill where one side is ripping and there's no coals on the other. So you have an on and off switch. Like, they're like, I just don't know how to control it. I'm like, you put it over the flames to get things burbling. Like if you're doing it in a pan, and then if it's simmering or reducing too quick, you move it to the side of the grill without the coals and you're good, So I think sometimes for whatever reason, grills scare people.
Yep.
Like especially when you're using charcoal or wood, like they're like, can I use a gas grill? I'm like, well, yeah, but I mean, cooking a steak on a gas grill is like, riding a bike with 2 flat tires. Yeah, it's a bike, but it doesn't really get anywhere fast. And and it's just the results just aren't as good. So like nowadays with, you have the chimney, you have the charcoal, you have starters, that you could put in the bottom of the chimney. You have hot coals in like 6 minutes. So I don't know. I hope more and more people get away from gas grills and start doing more things over live fire, because the difference in taste it's monumental. I mean, it's a really significant difference. So that's what we're always trying to preach, both on the show and in the book, and the simplicity of it. And there's a lot of affordability there. So it hits a lot of, I feel it checks a lot of boxes for a lot of people, which is, I think, one of the reasons it's been so successful. I mean, fortunately it was a New York Times bestseller. So that always is very exciting to Doug and I. I mean, Greg, you know me, I feel well enough now that it's hard for me to put a sentence together when I'm speaking. You should see the ones that I write for Doug to fix. So
sentences, putting it kindly.
Yeah, he's like, 6 explanation points have the same meaning as 1. You just need 1. But I'm like, Doug, I'm really excited. He's like, yep, that's what that's for.
You would save.
Just 1 explains that you're excited. You don't need 5 more following it. But after 8 books together, I'm learning.
So you just mentioned it's a New York Times bestseller, and that has to be a big deal, because I believe 4 out of the 8, if I'm incorrect on that, please tell me, but 4 out of the 8 that you guys have worked on have attained a New York Times bestsellers list distinction. What's the metric on that? When do you become a New York Times bestseller?
I wish we knew, because it would probably be, would make everything less stressful. They gauge how many books you're selling in spans of a week. It quite frankly, in the past, I feel 4 or 5 years, I don't know when they changed it. I think they're harder to attain as a cookbook authors than they were previously. When Doug and I first started doing this together on the New York Times bestseller list, cookbooks was a category. And now cookbooks is part of a larger category. So it's we're in like a self-improvement / whatever. So we're going against a lot of things that aren't cookbooks. Like, I believe we were the only cookbook when they did the New York Times bestseller list and they named the 10 books. We were the only cookbook in the 10.
Wow.
Everything else was like a self-help book. Which those are good books too, but it's obviously easier when you're just competing against cookbooks.
Doug, when you get a call that you've notched another New York Times bestseller, has it become run of the mill at this point, or is every time like the first time?
Well, nothing is like the first time, as we all know. But every single time, it is such a, it's funny. We were chatting last night, Greg, you and I, and Mike called me. It was I think the day after we did a book event at the library here in Cleveland, and he greets me like, oh hey, New York Times best-selling author. I'm like, hey Mike, what's up? And there was a pause, and I could tell that he was like, no, I don't think you understand what I'm saying. He's like, no, the book. I was like, oh wait, this book. I was like, holy, Yeah. So yes, every single time it's incredible, and no, it never gets old. It never will get old. I hope it doesn't stop being this exciting.
Are you want to?
I mean,
go ahead,
Greg. Now I realize with Doug, I have to be very specific because he's fancy now. So I have to say, hey, now 4-time New York Times bestseller.
Yes.
Like I have to, I have to let him know that we won another one.
The Cleveland Heights entitlement knows no bounds.
Privilege.
Yeah. Jeez, oh Pete. So are you on a multiple book deal with your publisher right now, Michael?
Actually, currently, that was the last book of my deal. Hopefully Doug and I are going to continue to do more books together. And I mean, we've done all 9 of my books have been with Random House and Potter. So I would imagine that we will continue down that road, but you never know. I mean, they always the way that our contracts are set up with them is even when my contracts are up, they always have first right of refusal. So like if we come up with whatever the next book is going to be, we have to pitch the idea to them first. And then if they waver or don't respond immediately, we could then pitch the concept for the book to others. Fortunately, I mean, Doug, you might remember this better than me, but I don't feel any of the concepts we've ever pitched have been. I don't think we've ever been denied of what we've wanted to do.
No, I don't recall.
That I remember. Yeah.
I mean, if you're batting, 500 on New York Times bestsellers, I don't know how many times you're going to tell you no, right?
That does that. Well, it helps. It certainly helps. It's when you have a couple. When the holster's loaded, it's easier to that they trust our thought process, so to speak. And there's been times they've questioned things, and there's been times we've questioned them. But they've been very good to me over the past 9 books and 20 years.
Well, and that's just the process, right? I mean, they always want the best book that you could produce, right? I mean, so the pushback is always just to make a better book, and their suggestions are typically, they're good ones, and they're work harder, and do better, and we do, and the books end up better for it.
Doug, how do you
and we've been? I mean,
go ahead.
No, I was just going to say we've also been fortunate. Like Raquel is no longer with Potter, but she has been, the person that Doug and I have worked with on the past 4 or 5 books, right, Doug?
Maybe 4. I mean, she's been 4.
Yeah, Reek 4 and 4. I mean, we've had really back-to-back great people at Potter that have believed in us and given us great suggestions and listened to us when we've pushed back. And I mean, that's what makes really, it's like, obviously Doug and I are the co-authors of the book, but there's a lot of people on that team also that really help us get to where we are.
So maybe some of the people that are watching tonight know Michael because he's on television and he's got the name on the book, and you also know the face, but probably a lot of people don't know the face of Doug Trattner, at least from a holistic sense. I mean, a lot of us here locally that know Doug, of course. But how do you and Michael even meet in the first place, and where does business jump off?
Well, I mean, I've been writing about food and restaurants in Cleveland since right around the time when a couple years after Mike opened Lola down in Tremont, and I wasn't luckily I wasn't a young critic reviewing his restaurant, because that probably wouldn't go well, because young critics never they always come out of the gate a little strong, a little hot. But no, I mean, I think so. We had a fortunate relationship in that, like, I was, writing about food at the same time he was cooking food in Cleveland, and I think our careers, they were parallel, but not, often crossing, until he was working on, Carnivore came around, and he asked me if, I wanted to work with him on that book, and that was probably 13 years ago, I think. And I said, of course, I would love to. And we met at a coffee shop down here in Cleveland Heights, and just kind of hashed it out. It was, just good. I think, he saw the work I did. I think he understood that I was a good writer, and I understood food, and I understood him and his voice. And that's where we started. And then right after we kind of had that meeting was when Mike said, I got the job at the Chew, and I'm moving to New York.
Yeah. We're gonna have to do this, Doug. Now we're having a long distance romance, right? So but it all worked out. The other thing is and I think the thing that people don't think about enough is, and it's for me, it's always one of the first things that I think about, especially the older that I get now. It's like, I want to work with people that I obviously respect. And I know that they're skilled at their craft, And that's my first thought. But then the very next thought is they could be skilled at their craft and I can respect them, but they can be complete assholes. And I don't want to work with complete assholes.
Yeah.
So like, I work with people that I enjoy being with. And, Doug and I developed a friendship, over the years. And I had a ton of respect for what he did and how he talked about food and not how he reviewed my food, but look, I ate at all the restaurants that he reviewed. So like I was able to know when he was full of shit or writing a good review or not full of shit and writing a good review. And like 99% of the time, I always agreed with what he said about the food and how he talked about it. And he was never, even when you could tell he didn't like something, he was never aggressively disrespectful to the restaurant or the chef. Yep. And I think there's a lot to be said for that. And, but I consider Doug a friend, I mean, he's stayed at my house, like we're around each other a lot during the book. And when I'm in town, I often see him, but like we're friends and it's not like we just do books together and then I never talk to him again. So, I think when you go through like a cookbook or any book or restaurant or those things, they're personal and it's a expression of yourself. So unless you have a great relationship with the person that you're doing it with, or, minimally a mutual respect between the two, hopefully a friendship between the two, that's what makes the books great. Like a recipe is a recipe and certainly we're good at writing recipes. Certainly we're good at testing recipes to make sure that the recipes work when the people use them. But like the Doug has the ability to read my jibber jabber and put it into speak that the average human could understand is not only a gift that he has as a writer, but it's also because of our friendship, I feel.
Was there ever a time, Michael, that in the beginning you thought you might do all the writing as well?
No, I have, I write kind of everything or audio everything to Doug and then he fixes it. Like I barely made it through high school and English was my worst subject, by the way. Like math, I'm a wizard. English, I am like, had a very low skill set. We'll just put it that way. But, I am a huge believer in anything that I do I know what I'm good at. I know what I'm not good at. And the things that I'm not good at, I surround myself with people that are great at. And I let them do what I know they do much better than me. And I feel that and Doug could speak to this better than me. I feel that they know that they could do those things unabated. Like I'm not going to mother them, so to speak. Like I'm going to let Doug do his job because Doug is a much better writer than I am. I'm a much better chef than he is. So like, so we put those two things together and like Doug obviously is a very good cook. I'm good at writing my emotions, even though I can't put it in an actual sentence. So like, when we put those two things together, that Doug understands food and I understand what I want to say, just not fully how to punctuate it. We end up telling the stories together and everything comes out great.
Doug, how do you explain the process?
And because we have been doing it for so long, I mean, I remember, early on, I was terrified to really kind of, tweak something or edit something. And I'd send it to Mike and I'd be like, is this okay? I went a little, this way. And he's like, stop. He's like, just everything is great. Everything you've done has been, on point. And so over time you get the confidence to be like, I don't need to run everything by Mike if I'm just making a little change or doing this or that. And, it's like any relationship you understand this isn't me, it's Mike, it's not about me. It's never been about me. It's about, putting out books that are uniquely, singularly Michael Symon. People know him and love him for a reason, and that's why these books do so well, because of his personality, and that's what these books are all about. And and I'm comfortable in knowing exactly, what his personality is, what he would never say, what he would usually say, and it's easy at this point.
Was there ever a time, Michael, when publishers said, "Hey, how about somebody other than Doug?"
Hey, whoa.
No, not really. I mean, I had to, like, when Doug did the first book, I had to sell Doug. You know what I mean? Like, I had to explain why I wanted to do it with Doug, like, because there's, they didn't know who Doug was. I explained who Doug was. I showed them things that Doug had written. I explained about our friendship. And then from that, like, even the beginning process of that, they're like, oh, we love him, and then you go forward. It's like we've used the same photographer for the past 5 books, the same food stylist for the past 5 books or 6 books. But like, and like with me and Doug, because we're co-authors now, they never say like, oh, maybe you should do it with someone other than Doug. Like, they'll say like, maybe we should try a new photographer. Maybe I'm like, no. Like, I mean, if you want to give us some direction on how you want the photography to look, or, should we change some of the food styling? Like, I'm okay with that. But these people have become family to me, and we've built this so-called brand together. And, I'm not interested in someone testing the recipes that I've never met on, that has an Instagram account, because they'll do it for, X amount of dollars when I spend 5 times that, or more on a food stylist, or more on a photographer. Or, I'd rather go about the way books work is I get an advance on the book. I then spend the advance to create the book. So the less of my advance that I spend, in theory, the more money I make on the book. But I've always looked at it is like, I want to have the best of the best do everything that we're doing. No different than how we always ran our restaurants. I could have made a lot more money at B-Spots if I put shitty beef on the bun and just grilled it up and charged the same price. And quite honestly, probably only 15% of people might have noticed the difference in that we were, because we only ground whole muscle, which was more expensive. We only used a certain grade of beef, which was more expensive. And then, 70% of the burgers were well done. So like, who's the idiot? Maybe it's me, but like, but I think of the cookbook the same way. Like, maybe they don't see the difference in the picture or the difference in the food styling, but like that I get to style the food for the books with Susan Spungen, not even arguably the greatest food stylist that's probably ever walked Earth, and who's, did every magazine that Martha ever did, and any great food movie that you've ever seen, she probably food styled. That Susan, like, almost as a favor now to me, styles my books because of our long-term friendship. I'm willing to pay a little bit extra for that, or our photography team, or all those things that go into it, I think are why we end up on the New York Times bestseller lists. So, I don't know. I think, in life, you get in what you get out what you put in. And if you try to cut every corner and take every bullshit way to get from point A to point B, you're just long-term going to cheat yourself.
It sounds like, unknowingly, perhaps, you guys have just set a standard for how you're going to be writing a book, and anybody you're bringing with you, they're going to meet the standard, or somebody else is going to be there that's willing to meet the standard. There's no compromise.
Yeah, no compromise ever.
Yep.
In anything we do. That's just not how for better or for worse, that's how I'm going to always choose to function. It allows me to sleep well at night, I guess, for, and like, quite honestly, if we started compromising, I know Doug would be like, I don't want to be part of this shit anymore. Like, it's not like Doug's becoming a billionaire from being a co-author on the cookbooks. It's like, it's a little bit of a passion project for all of us.
For sure.
Doug, when you look at where book writing was when you guys started and wherever book writing is as we sit here in 2025. I mean, Meathead was on the New York Times best-selling list, if you can believe it, back 6 years ago, and his new book actually just dropped today. How much has it changed, and what do you like and what do you don't like about it?
It's amazing. I was thinking about this today. Excuse me. I mean, obviously, everything is changing. Mike and I were talking about how much dining has changed in the last 20 years. I mean, everything's changed, obviously. But in the publishing world, so much has changed from when we started. And, I remember, the one manuscript, there'd be one physical copy of this manuscript, the first draft, essentially. And it is mailed around, for edits. And in fact, it was mailed to the wrong address on my street. Fortunately, it was a neighbor of mine who knew me. And so the one copy of, Carnivore was dropped off down the street. He brought it over here. So there was just one large physical copy. And then there was PDFs. And so you would have just a list. Imagine a list of each round of edits, hundreds and hundreds of little questions. Just questions that you would have to we would get on calls, these conference calls that would last 4 or 5 hours, just going through all these things with this one physical copy. That kind of evolves into online versions and things like that. And so there's just been so many kind of changes that have kind of streamlined the process, made it so much less. And, it should be a fun process. It is a fun process, but the editing process is a nightmare. The final kind of 3 rounds or so. And that has gotten so much less painful because of technology and advances. So, hurrah for all that.
Are book writers, individuals, or teams always on that next book? So are the two of you noodling on concepts, or do you already have something in the chamber here that you're ready to fire off at some point?
Yeah, I think you're always thinking about the next one. I will see if this happens. I mean, right now, if you were to ask me, what's the next book going to be, I would like it to be Greek. So obviously it's big part of my heritage, a big part of how I grew up and the foods that I ate. And again, goes back to there a lot of live fire cooking in Greek cuisine and the Greek community. So I would really love to do a great Greek book. My mom is not as young as she used to be. And my father has passed, and I would love for my mom to see a Greek book done. While she still has all her wherewithal, so to speak.
All right, let's ask the tough questions now as we get ready to close out. Doug, what's the best restaurant to eat at in Cleveland?
Oh, well, I mean, the best restaurant to eat at is always the one right down the road. And so I'm going to Doug Katz's Jug. I'm going to Vero Pizza. I'm going to Kiln over at Van Eyck. And I these days, when I'm not working, I stay close to home.
Michael, best restaurant in Cleveland.
Did he ask you best restaurants in Cleveland? I think Zug is incredible. Doug, last time I was home, Doug sent me to Sense Pizza, which I thought was outrageously good. Speaking of my mother, my sister brought her to Fahrenheit the other day, and they just had a great time for Mother's Day. When Liz and I were home on the book tour, we went to Cordelia, had a really wonderful meal. Obviously that's a little bit of an emotional heartstring restaurant for me too, because it was, the former Lola. But very proud of the job that they're doing there. And I think I said to Doug after I ate there, I'm like, God, it would have broken my heart if I walked into that restaurant and the whatever went in there, the chefs didn't have the passion and the desire to just kind of do everything the right way. And I think at that restaurant, they're really working incredibly hard to do everything the right way, day in and day out. So, those are some of my favorites, current favorites. There's, the Cleveland restaurant scene has gotten so good.
Yeah. Doug, would you say that Rocco has kind of made the I don't want to say usurped Michael Symon, but Rocco's here all the time now. So do you think Rocco is in essence like the latest Michael Symon?
Hey, look, I'm not gonna play that game. I will say that what Rocco is doing downtown is good for him to because downtown was always tough. Like downtown Cleveland, always tough to get somebody in there who's doing the heavy lifting, and he is doing it day in and day out. Yep. And that restaurant is so appreciated and so consistent and so necessary down there that. Yeah, I mean, I'm thrilled that he's there, and I know he's killing it.
By the way, I'm not Cleveland.
I would say.
Go ahead.
I'm sorry. I would say that no chef understands Cleveland better than Rocco. I think that is like I hate to give anybody any title or anything like that, but like I think what Rocco is incredible at is understanding the Cleveland customer and what they want and what they're looking for and how to make them happy day in and day out.
The thing that I love the most about Fahrenheit moving out of Professor and Tremont coming up downtown, I'm not a Cleveland historian, but back in the day, Fahrenheit used to be my favorite joint, John Q's Steakhouse. So the fact that thing sat empty for like decades and has now been revived into a hotspot downtown has really made my heart sing. All right, let's do this rapid fire and then we'll close it up. I did this with Michael Symon last time, and he was 2 out of 3, believe it or not. And we'll start here. Michael, do the Guardians
Why believe it or not? Wait, why believe it or not?
Well, because you were really sure on the one that was a not. And I was like, I don't know. So here we go. All right. Do the Guardians make the playoffs this year?
I'm going to say yes.
Right. Doug, do the Guardians
What about you, Doug?
make the playoffs?
Absolutely.
Yes. Boy, I don't want to be the contrarian here. I don't think so. All right. Do the Browns make the playoffs this year, Michael?
No.
Doug, Browns, playoffs? No. And it's unanimous. No for me. This is a different question than it was originally phrased. Michael, do you think that the freshly ended Cavaliers season should be looked at as a disappointment? Yes or no?
You know what? I'm gonna say no. I'm gonna say no. Like I would have loved to see him go further, obviously, but what a great regular season they gave us. We obviously got to build a team a little bit that's built better for playoff basketball. I mean, Indiana, they were the better team. So I'm going to say no, but yeah.
Doug, Cavs, a little disappointing?
Agree. Of course, it's disappointing. Great season. Sad ending. It just fell a little short. Ran out of, too many injuries, ran out of energy, ran out of steam, ran against a tough Pacers team.
All right. I say no. Not a disappointment. And solely because at the worst time possible, injuries reared their head again, just like last season when we were out 2-3 players. I mean, we could talk about how it seemed that the second team was completely invisible in the postseason, where they were totally visible all through the regular season, where you could run 10, 12 guys in rotation regularly and count on anybody to give you 10, 20 points. That was a little frustrating, but having your major guys out with what were obvious hampering injuries is not going to help you get through the second round of the playoffs. And I agree with you, Mike. I mean, Indiana is fucking tough. So I don't fancy anybody looking to get them in the conference finals coming up for sure.
I do think too, though. I think one thing that the Cavs are going to have to do probably this offseason is, as good as our team is and as good as they were during the regular season, they're probably going to have to do a little retooling. Yep. We got out muscled by the Knicks last year, and we got out muscled by the Pacers this year. And once playoff basketball starts and the physicality heats up, it seems like the only one that could really handle the physicality is Mitchell.
It's a New York Times bestseller again. The book is Symon's Dinners, Cooking Out, and it was co-authored by the guy to my right, Michael Symon, and also the guy right below me, Doug Tratner. Doug, Michael, appreciate the time here this evening and had a great time. Continued success with the book, and we'll talk to you both again very soon.
Always great
Thanks,
to see you,
Greg.
Greg. And
Continue.
Doug, you have a fabulous head of hair.
All right, there they are. I feel like the infighting could jump off at any point. We certainly don't want that. All right, great extended segment there with Michael Symon and our pal Doug Tratner over at Cleveland Scene. If you're local to Cleveland or you just like reading great food writing, Doug Tratner's the guy you want to follow, especially if you're going to be visiting here in Cleveland. Everybody's always emailing, where should I go? What should I do? Follow Doug. He's got it all. He's got his finger on the pulse of the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame city. All right, all the way back in the first hour, we had Mr. J from the Cigar Authority giving us the latest and greatest on Perdomo, McAuliffe, and a bunch of other stuff. And then after him, it was Robert Moss, contributing barbecue editor in Southern Living Magazine, robertfmoss.com. And then, of course, in the second hour, Michael Symon and Doug Tratner. In the beginning, Michael and I were talking about 24 and 24 on the Food Network in its second season and doing markedly better than the first season, which was a banger on its own. And then we also talked about the book, Symon's Dinners, Cooking Out, co-written by Doug Tratner. Getting a little back and forth there as well. Very fun, very enjoyable. Hope you liked it. And as we end the poll here this evening, and I'm going to do it right now before anybody tries to ruin it for me, do you think Brad Leiniger is going to make it into the 2025 Barbecue Hall of Fame? We are at a deadlock, if you can believe it. 50-50. How about that? All right, big show planned for you next week. It is the third Tuesday of the month next week. Remember that because we were off last week. Wes Wright will be in, and who knows who else. Sure to be a great one. So, how do I always leave? September 11th, 2001. I will never forget. Until next Tuesday at 9 p.m. Eastern, this is your program host and proud U.S. American Greg Rempe saying, Shabon! Shabon!
Hey, what's up? This is JM, host of the Celebrity Grill podcast on iTunes, and you're listening to the Barbecue Central Radio Network. All barbecue and grilling, all the time.